Happy holidays, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecheck, the last pre-Christmas edition show. Andy McNamara alongside Nick Alberga. And Nick, hey man, we're in a giving mood.
We are.
Right? It is the holiday season, so we're going to give you the fantasy hockey tips you need, that you deserve. Waiver wire pickups, sleepers, and of course, how to win some money in the Ram Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool. And the Fantasy Forecheck is brought to you by the Ram 1500 Sport. But Nick, let's begin with the top storylines for the week. Last week, it was, where's Taylor Hall going to go?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and now we know it is to the Arizona Coyotes.
The gift that keeps on giving, Taylor
Yes.
Hall in fantasy hockey. He's no longer with New Jersey. Thank goodness on that. But
to the Coyotes.
Yeah, so he's a Coyote now. Christian Dvorak's a guy certainly we're looking at because he's playing on a line with Kessel and clearly Taylor Hall, and there's so much value there, 23% ownership. So I think first and foremost, I would have a look at picking up Christian Dvorak because I think clearly his fantasy stock goes upwards with the arrival of Taylor Hall. And trade for Phil Kessel, who's also on that line. So you look
really underperformed this year, Nick.
He
and
is.
This is a buy low opportunity.
Exactly.
Right?
No, that's exactly it. And I think when you look at the line set up, the top six, Hall, Dvorak, Kessel, Keller, Soderberg, and Schmaltz on line two. And I think PP1 as well. Clayton Keller's a guy who should be eyebrow raising as well in terms of going after. He's had a slow start. He's really starting to pick things up. But across the board, the value through the roof, I think, with Taylor Hall going to Arizona.
So that's Taylor Hall, but where else do we go on the rental side?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to add, too, that Darcy Kuemper goes down with a lower body injury. So I think from an Arizona perspective, you want to look at maybe acquiring Antti Ranta, who's going to take most of those starts. Aiden Hill's going to back up, as we know, and Kuemper's injury did not look good. Right. So we'll see how much time he misses here for Arizona. In terms of the rental market, I fear for everybody covering the NHL trade deadline on February 24th. I'd like to see some old-fashioned hockey trades, as I wrote in my 20 fantasy thoughts on Sunday. Names we're looking at that maybe you want to target from a fantasy perspective who could be dealt between now and the deadline. Chris Kreider, Wayne Simmons, Sami Vatanen, Alex Galchenyuk of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Tyler Toffoli, the LA Kings. Ottawa's a curious team with Vlad Namestnikov and JG Pajot. And you wonder about Chicago. I don't think both these guys will go, but in between the pipes and Corey Crawford and Robin Lehner, I think you could extract some fantasy value from those type of files right now, although let's be honest, these guys aren't game breakers the way Taylor Hall is, Andy.
Well, no, not so much. But hey, if they're available on the waiver wire, there has to be certain expectations. How about the new top six for the Florida Panthers? You're like, it's spicy.
You want to talk about gifts? My goodness, Noel Acciari, the gift that keeps on giving, I think, for the Florida Panthers coming over in the offseason from the Boston Bruins free agent deal. This guy's been on fuego. 7 points in the last 3 games. The Panthers split up Huberdeau and Barkov.
Right.
They have 17 goals in the last 3 games, so the new top six looks like this. Vatrano, who has 16% ownership. Barkov and Conley, 16% ownership. You want to look at those two. And then Huberdeau, Trocheck, and Noel Acciari, 11% ownership. This is not going to last forever, especially on the Acciari front, but you ride that hot wave until you extract everything possible for Noel Acciari. Everything this guy shoots is going in the net, so you got to be all over it, Andy.
Keep it going and discard the husk when it's done and throw it away, but get everything you can out of it until the last possible second. Now, what we like to do on the show, of course, is schedule manipulation. Now, this week, there's no 4-game weeks because of the Christmas break, but we do have 24 3-game weeks and 7 on the 2-game front.
Yeah, very condensed this week. I think if you're trying to approach that schedule and manipulate it, it's going to be a bit difficult because there are only 4 days of games this week. So I would just stay away from Anaheim, Dallas, Detroit, Edmonton, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, and San Jose. Outside of that, the other teams have 3 and 4, and that's pretty par for the course in this league. So again, we do like to preach it, as you mentioned, but this time around, just try to hammer as many 3-game teams, and you should be okay this week.
Let's get to our waiver wire pickups of the week. And Nick, we're wrestling fans on the show, so I'm gonna channel my inner Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. Holla! If you hear me, Eric Holla back from injury reserve. And this is where I love when you're able to track guy who's been injured, who has upside. You just kind of pay attention. Where is he at? Where is he at? Then you grab him. He's owned in just 16% of Yahoo leagues. He was popping earlier in the season. So listen, for DFS, you track how he does at first, right? But you pick him up, keep him on the bench even for a few games if need be. But he's going to get back to it on that Hurricanes.
And money motivation is a beautiful thing. Eric Holla in a contract year, so I like that play. With that, I'm going to go to Columbus and Oliver Bjorkstrand. 21% ownership. Cam Atkinson goes down, so clearly a promotion in story here. Nyquist, Jenner, and Bjorkstrand plus PP1 opportunity as well for Bjorkstrand, who's really starting to produce the last little while. Last 4 games, 5 goals and 2 assists. I think this week, especially with Columbus Columbus having 3 games, I'm looking at adding Oliver Bjorkstrand for sure.
Yeah, and I'll stick with Columbus here. And usually being over 60%, I don't like considering in the waiver wire conversation.
Talk about trading for him.
Yeah, but you can trade for him. And let's face it, if you can get a Zach Werenski, who I'll stick with that returning from injury theme, where some people dropped him, maybe forgot about him a little bit. So have a peek on your waiver wire, because he was under 60% just a couple days ago, 3 games back. He is 25, 26 minutes a night. We know what he can do. We know his upside, and maybe somebody that people forgot about.
Yeah, and I think in general, I like Columbus here in the second half. There's no pressure on that team. No. They lost everybody. I know they dealt a lot at last year's deadline, but they're going to be a team to watch for, I think, in the second half from a fantasy perspective, because nobody really, is wondering about them. There's no pressure, and I think they're going to play the role of spoiler down the stretch, so I like that. Seth Jones I'd buy on as well.
Sure,
Cam
Seth
Atkinson
Jones.
when he's healthy. Pierre-Luc Dubois is another guy I think you can buy low on, so certainly I like Columbus a lot. Back end, I'm going to a former Hurricane, now St. Louis Blue, had a so-so start offensively. Justin Falk, 36% ownership the last 5 games for Falk, a goal and 3 assists. And the key thing, I think they've instructed him to shoot the puck more. He has 24 shots on goal in the last 5 games, so we're seeing plenty of category coverage. To boot, he's playing with Alex Pietrangelo on pairing 1, and he's seeing PP2 opportunities. So I think certainly he's attainable, only 36% ownership. I'm going to Justin Falk, Andy.
I'll go between the pipes here. Guy you talked about last week, James Reimer. Let's return to the Carolina Hurricanes here. And the thing is, you talked him up last week, but he's still just owning 16% of Yahoo leagues for James Reimer. So we go to, again, that second goaltender in your fantasy league, right? Or DFS, you got to stream him. He's won 3 out of his last 4 games. He has a .927 save percentage. He's got a 2.31 goals against. Like, for James Reimer, this is a situation where you cannot ignore him and just like, if you were a Leaf fan, he was okay. No, you got to go get yourself some James Reimer.
Yeah, that's exactly the word to use. Don't ignore him. And certainly the way Peter Mrazek has been up and down the last little while, I think James Reimer, the veteran, is going to start to steal some starts for the Carolina Hurricanes. And Rod Brind'Amour, again, has done a tremendous job with that team. There's a lot of value in fantasy hockey when it comes to Carolina. I'm going to pimp one of your picks from a couple weeks back and go to Linus Ullmark of the Buffalo Sabres, who has profoundly taken the number 1 job from Carter Hutton, the veteran who's really, really struggling, which is a far cry from the first couple weeks of the season. Hutton was the fantasy steal of the year, but hopefully you sold high on that file. 7-2-2 over the last 11 for Linus Ullmark, 36% ownership. He has a 2.73 and 9.16, and again, he's the number 1 guy, so he's starting a lot. And I think very much attainable on waiver wires right now. I
like that. And what you people are going to like is the opportunity to win some cash in the Ram Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. So over $50,000 in prizes, weekly cash prizes. You can win one of the terrific Ram 1500 sports trucks. Like there's so much going on. And the great part is, even if you didn't start the year, you can still jump in anytime. Check it out. Go to
Still be ahead of Andy.
You can still be ahead of me. Still go to Sports.
I'm kidding.
Sportsnet does, maybe.
No, I'm not.
But you can go in and try to win yourself some money. It's great if you've been on all year or not. But remember too, folks, this whole show, the Fantasy Forecheck, is brought to you by the Canadian exclusive Ram 1500 Sport. This full-size pickup gives Canadians exceptional capability under the hood, advanced technology inside, and impeccable styling throughout. It's the Ram 1500 Sport, and it is designed for life in the North. So this is how the game works. You pick 6 forwards, you pick 4 defensemen, 2 goalies, and then on each grouping, you put 1 Ram-capable tag, which doubles your fantasy points, and you have 30 total player points. So they're valued 1 to 4 to fill out your roster. So who do you got for forward on your Ram-capable pick?
Well, I have to say, first and foremost, we have newfound respect for everybody who plays the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. I got to find somebody out there who had Nola Chari last week, right? There's got to be somebody because he scored 7 goals. I'm going to Austin Matthews, a newfound top line for the Maple Leafs in the third period on Saturday night in their 4-1 win against Detroit, playing with Marner, playing with Zach Hyman. Matthews is starting to light it up a bit. 4 goals in the last 3 games, 7 points. 3-game week for the Maple Leafs and a 3-point value in the cap system here in the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. So I'm Ram-capable picking Austin Matthews of the Maple Leafs.
Can't argue with that. I'll go Nathan MacKinnon. And I feel like all year I've been focusing on either Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. Nathan MacKinnon's the top-ranked fantasy player.
He's nasty. He is nasty.
He's costing you 4 points. That's the top end. Sometimes you pay up and you keep it simple. You keep it simple. We all know what Nathan MacKinnon can do. He scores. He's multi-category. He does everything. So you slap the tag on him, you're going to have yourself a good week.
And of course, we have to hit the quota for producer Drew, who's a big-time Colorado Avalanche fan. But I mean, MacKinnon, he is unbelievable. And I think for my money right now, we're just at the halfway point roughly. Hart Trophy
He's
winner.
matchup proof.
Exactly. Hart Trophy winner for Nick Alberga, if you ask me. The back end, one of the top scoring defensemen. Again, nobody's talking about. There's been a lot of Carolina contingent on this show, which we like to pimp out. Dougie Hamilton, just 2-point value, which is just tremendous. Considering John Carlson is 3, I'd go to him all the time as well. But Dougie Hamilton, a 3-game weekend, he's one of the top scoring defensemen. Easy pick for me. I'm Ram capable of picking Dougie Hamilton.
Blue liner, Shea Weber. Like, for the Montreal Canadiens. Someone forgot to tell him, it's supposed to be the downside of his career.
Fountain of youth.
He's supposed to not be getting all the contract. He's not supposed to be worth anything. Well, Shea Weber didn't get the message, I guess.
That conversation has ended where everybody said Subban, the Nashville won that trade, hasn't it?
Yeah, and Shea Weber, here's the value. He's 2 points. You could go up to 4. He's 2 points, Shea Weber. You're getting what he's been able to deliver. He's 19th overall ranking when it comes to Yahoo leagues. And you can slide him in. He's delivered double-digit fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. High-end consistency. That's what you want. You want that high floor. He's going to give you a good game every time out. So Shea Weber, I love him. I'll slap the Ram capable tag on him. Who you got in between the pipes?
Andrei Vasilevsky. At some point in time, this guy has to wake up from his slumber. Tampa in general. I wonder, could John Cooper be on the hot seat? And that's nothing against the guy. I think the team's not responding. I didn't like what I saw against the Washington Capitals on Saturday. Vasilevsky, there's a 4-point value attached to him, but this guy won the Vezina Trophy last year. Like I've referenced this before in my Ram capable picks that these guys need to get going eventually. And a 3-game week upcoming for Tampa. Eventually, you would think Vasilevsky's going to find his game. You would think he's going to play 2 of these 3 with 1 back-to-back. So I'm going to go to Andrei Vasilevsky here and hope for the best.
Yeah, and for me, I'll go to Pittsburgh. Tristan Jarry, he's playing video game easy numbers.
It's nuts.
It's to a point where you start the year and it's like, okay, they got now. Can they sustain it? 1.81 goals against. Stop it. Like
I will not. I'll be here every Sunday with you,
and he
Andy.
will not. Tristan Jarry will not stop doing it either. 939 save percent. The guy just wins. That's all he does. He goes in the net. He goes in the net. He wins. And oh, by the way, he's 2 points on the Ram Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Bowl. You can pay up to 3-4 points. You get a guy like that, 2 points. Absolutely, I'm doubling up on my fantasy points.
Until we change that, you go back to the well and you keep going to the well of Tristan Jarry.
Squeeze like a rag with water. Squeeze it out.
I love Taylor Hall too at 3. Yeah. Like there's a lot of value. If you look deep enough, and we talked about this throughout this season, if you look deep enough in the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool, you can find legitimate value. 3-point guys, 2-point guys, and 1-point guys. Quinn Hughes is a guy I like a lot all the time.
Sure. Yeah. And then with that, you can pay up for the higher guys like McKinnon, like McDavid, like Draisaitl, and you find the value elsewhere.
To spread your wealth elsewhere, yes.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed this. If you have any fantasy hockey questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. You can hit us up on Twitter at AndyMC81 and at The Golden Muzzy. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We'll see you next week.